Hey everyone, this is Carla Jenkins, and I would like to welcome you to Projectize, a project management show where I discuss the business of project management, how businesses use project management, and obtaining project management certification. And today, what you're looking at is the Google search for Wow Airlines. And the reason why I'm showing it is because as of today, March 28, 2019, Wow has just ceased operations. Thank you for the heart. So I want to discuss this from a project management perspective because as you're reading, it says Wow ceased operations, leaving passengers stranded. And then the very one on the right says a stranded Wow passenger on how she found out she's stuck in Europe. So, as you know, I am in the United States, and if you were to scroll down, you find out people from not just here abroad in Europe, but also the United States. Now, granted, Iceland Air, Virgin Air, and several other airlines have pitched in to pick up the Wow Air passengers who were stuck. But I'm going to take it from a project management perspective, and it's something called the triple constraint. And the triple constraint is scope, schedule, which is also time and cost. So scope is keeping the main thing, time, which is schedule, and cost. And if any one of these three things change, it would impact the other two. So what I'm going to focus on is cost. And while I was a low cost airline, and it, like Southwest, Spirit, Frontier, very low cost. And the reason why I'm going to bring that up is two concepts. It's called reserve analysis. You have the contingent reserve and the management reserve. So the contingent reserve is controlled by the project manager and is usually 90 to 95% of the whole reserve analysis. And the other 5% is management reserve, which the company. I feel the reason why it just ceased operation is because it didn't manage its budget correctly. And it has a thing called a cost baseline where that's the minimum amount that you have. They said they couldn't run. They had a bad cash flow. That's all cost. When you can't maintain your cost, when you're bleeding red and you want to maintain this whole thing of being a low cost carrier, then you run the risk of what happened with Wow Airlines, which it said that it ran out of money. So it just made a decision to cease operations. Well, that's not necessarily a good thing. And when you run out of money, that also means from a project management perspective that they ran out of not just contingent reserve because people are stranded, and that's what contingency reserve would be used for, to cover any known or unknown risks. And it also management failure because you didn't have management analysis either. And when you have bad management and people who aren't looking at the numbers and seeing and how to properly steer a company, this is what happens. So I wanted to talk about Wow Airlines and the project management failure behind it, because that's exactly what happens when you can't cover your costs, when you can't, stranding people is bad for time management. And I feel that when you can't cover your costs and you don't want to pivot or change the scope of just sticking as a low cost carrier, because if you have to keep cutting and cutting and cutting, you really can't provide a service. And it also magnifies that low cost can be costly to operate as a business because they're going to you based on price, and that's your competition. So if you're already getting people and passengers who know that they're trying to get the cheapest and they find something cheaper, it's going to be below your break-even cost, and you're going to have to keep dipping into your reserve funds. As I mentioned before, one of the three triple constraints was cost. And within cost, you have a thing called reserve analysis, and you have two things: contingency reserve that you, the project manager, would be over, and the management reserve, which the management or the company would be over. And obviously, since Wow has ceased operating today and it's a low cost carrier from Iceland, that's what happens. So one of the things that we could talk about for scope is what happens when it's no longer feasible to do that market. you should probably pivot to another market. And if you don't have the resiliency or the flexibility to pivot to another market, you would be stuck and end up like Wow Air. So for this episode of Projectize, looking at Wow from a project management failure perspective, it probably failed on scope, not being able to pivot, sticking with the low-cost carrier time, very bad timing, stranding passengers, as well as cost. Its inability to stop the bleeding and operating below its break-even point, exhausting both its management reserves and cost reserves. So that's the project management failure perspective from Wow. My name is Carla R. Jenkins. I am your hostess of Projectize, a project management show. I'm also a certified project management professional, certified Scrum and IDO with over 12 years experience solving complex problems in project management. If you would like to work with me, you can get in touch with me at info@carlarjenkins.com and carlarjenkins.com. So thank you very much, and I'll see everybody in the next live stream video. Goodbye.